Are you thinking of buying your first home in Chandler, Arizona? Well, don't get blindsided. One small mistake, like skipping the pre approval, choosing the wrong neighborhood, or underestimating closing costs, could cost you thousands or even cause your deal to fall apart. In this video, I will walk you through exactly what you need to know so that you can buy smart, avoid regret, and get the keys to your first home. Hello, and thank you for coming back to the channel. If you're new here, I'm Stephany Cabrales, your local realtor representing the Chandler and Gilbert areas. And in this channel, you're going to find valuable information and tips that can actually help you make your move to Arizona a lot more secure. I help families just like you make a move to Chandler, Gilbert, and other Metro Phoenix areas all the time. And I would love to help you accomplish that too. Now, that being said, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and let's get started. Okay, so let's start with where to even start. A lot of people are ready to start their home buying process, but they just don't know where to start. They only scroll through Zillow and Realtor.com hoping to find the perfect home. But here's the reality. The real first step is talking to a lender. That's right, folks. You have to reach out to a lender. And don't worry, if you don't know a lender, I would be glad to connect you with people I work with. Now, let's walk you through the process on what that could look like. You reach out to the lender, they send you typically the application to fill it out through online because, pretty much everything can be done through online now. Or you can possibly do it through the phone with the lender themselves, helping you fill out this application. It's really not complicated. It's really just pretty straightforward information that you'll have to put in there, your personal information, as well as some additional documents. Once you have finished up that loan application, then they're going to take a look at several factors in that application, but mainly they're going to take a look at your credit score, your annual income, and your debt to income ratio. Now, if everything looks good on that application, then they are going to give you what we call a pre-approval or pre-qualification letter stating how much you can afford to buy a home, which is the second reason why it's so important to start with a loan application, because not only does it give you a great guide on where to start searching for a home, which means you have a price range on where to search. Now, another reason why this approval is so important is because when it comes to the time of making an offer on a home, it is very important that you have this pre-qualification or pre-approval letter from the lender. This simply shows the seller that you are, in fact, ready to purchase a property. Not having that pre-approval or pre-qualification letter is almost the same thing as going to the grocery store without a wallet and telling the cashier, "Hey, you know what? I'll pay you in 2 days from now." Yeah, it doesn't really work like that. So you want to make sure that when you're ready to make an offer, you're also ready with your pre-approval. Also, another thing I want to cover with this topic of obtaining a loan is that you don't need 20% down to obtain a loan. A lot of people think that you need a minimum of 20% down to be able to obtain a loan, and that is just not true. Even though if you were to bring 20% down to the table, that would be fantastic. I mean, you would probably get a better interest rate and you'd get a lower monthly payment for your home. However, not everybody can bring 20% down to the table. Therefore, buyers typically have a minimum down payment that they would have to give depending on the loan they obtain. For example, if you qualify for a conventional loan, the minimum down payment would be about 3%, and for FHA would be about 3.5%. So these factors also can vary depending on your particular situation, but for the most part, these are the minimum down payment requirements. Also, another reason why you would want to start with a loan application first is because sometimes banks actually offer great opportunities with either down payment assistance or they can have some really competitive interest rates. For example, I was working with a lender who was offering a 5.3% interest rate at the moment. And I know that may sound like it's not that great of a deal, but if you think about it, we are seeing 6.8 to 7.2% interest rates at the moment. So a 5.3% is definitely a deal. Just know that starting off with applying for a loan before you search for a home is for your own interest. Once you get that approval and you get all these other details within your pre-qualification or pre-approval letter, it's time to start searching for a home. And with that comes the idea of, are you wanting to go after a new construction home or are you okay with a resale home? Now, what is the difference and what are the pros and cons of each of these properties. Now, if you went the new construction route, typically they do have builders who offer incentives and warranties for these homes. So if that's something that matters to you, then sounds like new construction may be what you're looking for. Also, another thing to keep in mind with new construction is that from the moment you start your process of building a home until the moment you move into your new home, it takes about 6 to 12 months. The whole building process is a very long process, and so if you're okay with that, then that's totally fine, but that's just something to keep in mind. Also, new construction homes tend to be at a higher price tag than any other resale homes in the area. And keep in mind that if you're trying to build a new home, that home is most likely going to be in a planned community, and it's going to most likely have an HOA. So that's another thing to keep in mind. Not trying to discourage anybody, but just something to keep in mind if you're wanting to go that route. All right, so let's talk about resales. What are the pros and cons with resales? Number one is that they may offer a more flexible closing day, and that goes for both ways, either for the seller or for the buyer. Sometimes the seller needs to stay in the house a little bit longer even after the sale of the home, which means that the buyer will have to be a little bit flexible with the closing day for that reason. Or vice versa, maybe the seller wants to sell super quick and the buyer needs to be flexible with a closing day sooner, other than the average 30 to 45 days that it takes to officially go from the moment you get an offer under contract to the moment that you actually officially purchase this home. Another reason why somebody would want a resale home, it's because these homes are actually located in very mature neighborhoods. I mean, they have local amenities, they're more centric, more access to the city. And so I feel like people actually look for resales a little bit more than new construction, and also for the flexibility with prices. Especially in North Chandler, you can find several different price points, from condos to townhomes to even mobile homes and even single family residences that are a little bit older but updated, maybe going around $330 to $350. And so a broader variety of price points is essentially what makes people want to buy a resale home. Overall, it just matters what you're looking for, if you want something modern, new, and updated, or if you're okay with maybe a resale that may need a little bit of work, but it's in a mature neighborhood and maybe you don't have to pay an HOA. All right, now let's talk about choosing the right area, because this is part of your criteria and part of what you're searching for in a home. What area are you searching for? Do you want to be near a specific school? Does commute times to work matter to you? What's the lifestyle like that you're searching? All those things that are to be accounted for really matter when you're searching for your home. The good news is that when we talk about schools, you don't necessarily need to be in your school district to be able to be part of the Chandler Unified School District. Isn't that so cool? Of course, people prefer to be near school because they don't want to have long commutes when it comes to picking up kids and stuff like that. But overall, you really don't have to be part of a school district to be able to sign up your kids for that specific school. One thing to keep in mind when searching for homes is that if you're searching for something with maybe no HOA, maybe homes that may need a little bit of work, and something a little bit more budget friendly, you may want to look into North Chandler, because that's where you'll maybe find townhomes, condos, older homes that can be a little bit more affordable. But if you're thinking about new construction, something more modern and something more updated, then maybe South Chandler is where you need to search. This is where you'll have the more planned communities, and it's just a newer area of Chandler overall. All right, and before we jump into the next step, and if you're learning something from this video, don't forget to reach out to me with any questions. My contact information will be on the screen and on the description below. So please send me a text, call me, shoot me an email so that I can answer any of the questions you have. All right, now let's talk about what happens once you're under contract. Once you are under contract, we are starting our inspection period. Inspection period means that it is time for a home inspection and other inspections that take place during this period. Now, a home inspection is not required. It is optional, but it does work on your favor. This is when an inspector will come in through the house, they will check every single aspect of the home, and then at the end, they will give you a report of anything that needs to be taken care of with this home. And I just want you to pay attention, because as a first-time home buyer, you may get a little intimidated when it comes to reviewing that report. Now, I want you to know that every home is going to have some type of findings, homes, right? Whether it's a new construction home or a resale home, every home has something that can be perfectionated within that home. The trick here is to figure out what is the extent of that repair, if it's something very extensive or if it's something more cosmetic. All right, after the inspection report, and if you and the seller come to agreement with the repairs of the home, we can move forward with the appraisal period. Now, the appraisal is typically requested by a lender, and they typically just want to make sure that the house is worth the amount of money they are lending the borrower. That is simply it. And this is done as a precaution for the bank in case the borrower happens to default on their loan and then the bank has to foreclose on this property. Then they want to be assured that they can get back the funds. All right, once we have moved away from the appraisal period, we are getting closer to closing. Now, at the close of escrow, you will need a couple things. Number one, you're going to need the total amount of money to be able to purchase this home, which includes your down payment and about 2 to 3% of the purchase price that can cover for your closing cost. You will also need an ID, and you will need about an hour to be able to sign some documents. Now, you can sign your loan documents online before you go into the title company to sign off more paperwork, but if you don't happen to get your loan documents signed beforehand, then you may take about 45 minutes to an hour to sign all of your documents at the closing table. Also, I almost forgot to mention that when you do get this pre-qualification or pre-approval letter, and during the process that you're searching for a home, there are a couple things to keep in mind to not do, or else it can jeopardize your approval. Number one, do not switch jobs. You must keep your current job because the bank is relying on your current income to give you this current approval. Number two, don't make any big purchases because that will just add on to your debt to income ratio, which essentially will change the terms on your approval and your approval can be terminated. So those are the two things to keep in mind when you're searching for a home. Now, you may be thinking, well, when I purchase a home, how much will I pay for a monthly payment, right? Well, your monthly payment, I can't really tell you how much that will be because I would need to know which type of home you're purchasing. Now, what I do for my clients is that I always give them a cost sheet that shows an estimated amount for their monthly payment and an estimated total amount to bring to close of escrow. That way, they have an idea on what they're looking at before they close on this home. Now, let's break down what a monthly payment is made up of. Your monthly payment consists of principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. Your principal is essentially your loan. You have to pay back the loan, so then you have to pay a certain amount towards that loan every month. On top of that, you have interest. You do have to pay interest on your loan. Therefore, you do have to pay interest in addition to your principal every month. On top of that, you have taxes, which essentially means property taxes. Property taxes in Arizona are not too bad though, but you do have to pay those every month, which is an additional charge to your monthly payment. And finally, you do have to pay your homeowner's insurance, and that is just insurance for your home. Now, don't forget that if you do live in an HOA community, homeowners association community, you do have to pay an additional fee every single month to be part of this association, and you also have utilities to pay every month. Now, I want to emphasize on utilities because we live in Arizona and we have really hot summers, right? And typically in Arizona, utilities do tend to go up 2 to 3 times more than average, especially during the summertime because the AC is working 2 times harder, therefore have to pay a little bit more in utilities during the summer. But overall, property taxes are pretty moderate in Arizona. For example, if you have a $400,000 property, you have to multiply that times the mill levy in the area, which is about 1.0806% estimated, right? Now, that gives you about $4,322 annually that you have to pay in taxes. And if you divide that times the 12 months of the year, that equals $360 a month that you'll have to pay in taxes. Lastly, let's focus on the importance of having a buyer's agent. Number one, they will help you navigate the market a lot more smoothly. They will tell you if this looks like a neutral market, more of a buyer's market, or more of a seller's market. That way you know what that you're fighting against. Also, a buyer's agent is always going to work on your behalf. They're going to protect your interest, and they will not disclose any information that can put you at risk of losing the deal. Also, your buyer's agent will negotiate on your behalf. That way, you can always be sure to be well represented when it's time to make an offer. And lastly, a buyer's agent will always make sure to keep the deal moving forward. That way, you can be assured that you'll get the home you've been searching for. Alright, and that was a brief first-time buyer roadmap. There are several things that I did not mention in this video, but of course, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Also, if you're even thinking about buying your first home in Chandler, Arizona, or the surrounding areas, the good news is that you don't have to figure it out all alone. I help first-time home buyers just like you all the time, and I love answering all the questions they have. So, if you found this information helpful, and whether you're 6 months out or ready to buy next week, I'm here to help you take that next step. Here's my contact information, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.